Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. As you can probably tell from the title, I'm not doing a Thomas and Friends video today. I'm making a video on another one of my favourite franchises, Doctor Who. I'm going to be talking about my favourite 3 William Hartnell stories, but I'm not considering every story in this. I'm leaving out stories that are missing and haven't had an official animated release. So I didn't take Marco Polo and stories like it into consideration, as they are completely missing. I'm not taking stories like Celestial Toymaker, where some episodes exist, into consideration, but I do include stories like The Reign of Terror, which was previously either completely or partially missing, but has had an officially animated release by the BBC. Another thing I will say before I start, there are a couple of stories I haven't watched that do exist. In the first Doctor's case, the stories I haven't seen are The Reign of Terror, The Web Planet, and The Ark. But I haven't heard anyone call these stories some of the best, so I don't think watching them really would have made a difference in what stories are in this video. And one final thing, these 3 stories aren't in any particular order. They're just my favourite 3 stories in the order I feel like talking about them. So the first story I'm going to talk about is The Gunfighters. This story, on the whole, is hated on by the fandom. A lot of people say that it's the worst historical story, or the worst story of the 60s, or even the worst story ever. But I just don't get it. I love this story. I love how the Doctor, Stephen and Dodo basically have no allies. The Clantons and Seth Harper are the ones throughout the story who are portrayed as the villains, who spent most of the story just wanting to kill the Doctor because they think he's Doc Holliday. Then you've got Doc Holliday and Kate, who are the Clantons' enemies, and end up sort of being the Doctor's allies, but for the first half of the story, they're just doing everything they can to keep Doc Holliday alive by letting the Clantons believe the Doctor is Doc Holliday and basically sentencing the Doctor to death. Wyatt Earp seems to be more of an ally to the Doctor and his companions, as he does seem to be doing his best to keep them alive, but really he's just trying to save Doc Holliday, and even asks the Doctor to join him in a gunfight. Johnny Ringo is introduced in part 3 and is hyped up to be the big bad of the story. In his first scene, shooting Charlie, an unarmed barman, purely because Charlie recognised him and Ringo didn't want Wyatt Earp to know he was around. He sort of helped Stephen by letting him ride with him to find Doc Holliday and Dodo, but he then joins the Clantons and keeps Stephen at the Clantons' house against his will. The other major player in this story is Bat Masterson. He is the closest thing to an ally the Doctor has. He clearly isn't okay with some of the stuff Wyatt is doing to protect Holliday, but goes along with it. He clearly respects the Doctor, and the Doctor respects him. I just love the story so much, with the way it builds from the 4 people waiting for Doc Holliday to a full-blown gunfight, and to be honest, I just like stories where there's no alien or really any sci-fi elements. The Doctor and his companions just stumble into a situation they shouldn't have done, get into the middle of it, and then have to get out of it. I will never understand why people don't seem to like this story. The second story I want to talk about is The Chase. The plot of the story is quite simple. The Daleks gain a time machine and follow the Doctor and his companions through time and space, with the intent to exterminate them. The Doctor and his companions are ahead, but the lead is shrinking. Along the way, they meet a man from Alabama on top of the Empire State Building, which proves to be one of the most humorous scenes ever in Doctor Who. They unintentionally are the cause of the Mary Celeste becoming deserted, and meet Dracula and Frankenstein's monster. It's at this last place that the Daleks catch up, and in the process of escaping, the Doctor, Ian and Barbara get separated from Vicky. There's also a clone of the Doctor that the Daleks make in an attempt to destroy the Doctor, and they meet Stephen Taylor, the next companion. I just love how fun they managed to make this story, and just the story in general, really. It proves to be Ian and Barbara's final story, and I think it's a good one for them to finish on. The final story of my top 3 is The 10th Planet. The first time I watched the story was actually fairly recently, and it's safe to say that this story changed the show. It showed the first ever regeneration by the Doctor, and it was the first because before this the Doctor had never regenerated before. Ever. Not ever. Ben and Polly are good, and they are 2 of my favourite companions in the whole show, and I love just how creepy the Cybermen are. In the new series, they are just mindless robots really, marching around saying delete, essentially turning them into Daleks. But here, it's not like that at all. The voices are unsettling, their hands are human, and it's very clear that they were once basically human and have now just had their emotions removed. There is a scene where the Cybermen are explaining what's going to happen, and Polly's yelling at them saying that millions of people are going to die, and don't they care? But unlike the Master, who would just sentence millions of people to death for his own amusement, or even just to make the Doctor despair, you could tell without their emotions, Cybermen just think it's the logical thing to do, and saying people die all the time, they die every day, that's just a part of life, so why should they care? Another thing I love about the story is that it sets up another amazing Cyberman story, but more on that when we come to my top 3 Sixth Doctor stories. So there we go, those are my 3 favourite William Hartnell stories, but comment down below what yours are and what you think of these 3 stories. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can follow my Instagram by clicking on the link in the description, but that's all for today. I will see you next week.